To transpose data in blockr, we're going to introduce two new blocks called pivot blocks. So, starting with our usual dataset on penguins, let's imagine that we have calculated a summary statistic where for each species we have calculated the count. And if you're not familiarized with how this is done, please see the video on calculating summaries. Now let's say with our output table, instead of having the species listed on rows in this long format where each row identifies an observation in the dataset, we instead want the species as columns and then the counts as the values in the rows. So to do that, we can right click, hit append block, and if we type in pivot, we'll see that two types of pivot exist. Pivot long to wide and unpivot, i.e. wide to long. In our case, we want to go from our long data to wide data. So we're going to pick pivot and append block. In here, we can select a column name we want to pivot from. So here we're going to take our species column and we're going to say get the values from the count column. And when we do this, we see that the data is transposed and now the species are individual columns and the count values are the values in the row below. Conversely, we could unpivot our data to bring it back to its original form. So we hit unpivot, append block, and now, just like before, we can select columns to pivot. So this time we need to select all of our species columns we've just created. And as we do that, the data now goes back from this wide form into its long form. However, now we need to create a name and value column headers because they cannot be inferred as they are lost during the original pivot. So here we could say species, and here we could call this count. Collectively, these pivots allow you to transpose data at various stages of a blockr workflow. In each of the pivots, you'll notice there's an advanced options feature. And to learn more about how this works, we refer you to the pivoting vignette in the tidyr package documentation, which will be linked in the video description below.